Hi everyone, welcome to another video of Communicare Communities. And in this video, this is the third, and it's again an unedited video. So I'm going to go through about 5 or 6 videos, basically completely unedited, just to sort of practice this process of making a video on YouTube. And I've already sort of started shifting my thinking, my eyes towards looking at this little green dot that's on my smartphone instead of looking into the middle of the screen. And the little green dot at least tells you that I'm trying to look at you. So in this video, I want to talk about a movie that inspired me to make a major change in my life and actually sent me eventually to university and to start a whole career as an academic. But before I get onto that, I want to talk a little bit about myself, and so that you've got a chance to get to know me a little bit. At the age of 18, I left school, having failed my university entrance exams, and started, like many other young people, on a course of different jobs. So I worked in various positions and may talk about those in another video sometime, such as my first job working as a possum factory worker. And that's about the dirtiest, smelliest job you can get, or maybe you've got an idea of a dirtier and smelly job, but it was pretty full on. And I was there for a while, and then I went into telecommunication. I was a lines person, or what they call a linesman at that time, for a couple of years or so. Then eventually moved into sales. When I was about 25, I went along to a movie, and it was this movie. I don't know if you know which movie this is, but this movie inspired me to make a radical change in my life. But it didn't happen overnight. Actually, it's this one here, Educating Rita. Educating Rita. Now, Educating Rita has Michael Caine as a crusty old professor called Frank Bryant, and a young mid-20s-year-old Julie Walters, who plays the part of a character called Susan, who wanted to study as a part-time student and make a life change, or make a change in her life. And she changed her name to Rita as well, which is why the movie's called Educating Rita. And it's an amazing movie. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, I encourage you to watch it. It's an awesome movie. It's a bit like a Pygmalion type story, but it's got a lot more substance than, say, something like My Fair Lady, that really is quite condescending on women. This movie is actually about a young person wanting to make a change in her mid-20s. And as I say, it's called Educating Rita. And what I didn't realize until I went along to the movie is that I'd actually always had quite a long, a deep-seated desire to study, and to study at university, to go on and do tertiary training. But I hadn't really thought about it that much. And it would be a number of years before that was realized. But the interesting thing is, in going along to that movie, it just sort of resonated something deep within. It just sort of touched on a sort of a sense within myself. There is something here. There is something that I can identify with. And I could identify with the character of Rita, who wanted to change her career and go into academia, or at least become a student, when she was about 25. And so this movie really blew my mind. But as I said, it would be another 5 years before that difference, or that opportunity to make that change happened. And it would be going another 2 or 3 years before I even sort of returned to thinking about that in any deep way. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that process a little later on in this video, because this might help resonate with you. That's about as much as a movie that I want to really talk about at this stage. But in the movie, this character Frank makes a really important observation to Rita, and it's later on in the movie. I'm going to return back to that fairly soon. But talking again and going back to my life again, I would be 30 before I actually took that opportunity and started my university or academic study life and which eventually became my university career. And it took a business disaster to prompt me to make that change. And often things happen in our life that give opportunity for some deep-rooted desire for change or for something else. Something happens in our life which in itself is pretty negative and can be pretty soul-destroying and pretty tough at the time, but in it are the seeds for opportunity for change. And so if you're going through that at this time, I just encourage you to perhaps return back to that dream that you had sometime earlier in your life about wanting to make that change, wanting to sort of stir up or move towards that dream that you had. Let me return back to that really interesting insight that Michael Caine's character shared with Rita towards the end of the movie. And she'd gone through a few changes. Her name is actually Susan, but then when she went to university and began her university studies, she wanted to make a change so radical that she even changed her name. But then through the course of the movie, she learned that her name, Susan, is who she really was. So even though she'd made a change in her life, she was still Susan. And so she went back to calling herself Susan by her real name. But the interesting insight that Michael Caine's character said to Susan, and he still thought she was calling herself Rita, so he called her Rita. And towards the end of the movie, he says these words: "Found a culture, have you, Rita? Did you find a better song to sing? No, you found a different song. That's all. Found a better song to sing? No, you found a different song. That's all." And that is such an incredible insight, because as we make changes in our life, and as we maybe go to another career, as we start on another educational journey, the temptation is to think that this is better than what others are doing. This is better. And it's not. It's different. And by taking that approach, that stops us from ever sort of being condescending or looking down at people. You know, everybody's following their own path, and we should encourage everybody to follow their own path to excellence. That's what it's about. Following your own path to excellence. So I said I wanted to draw out of this a couple of final thoughts. And the first thought is that in my own journey, as I said, it took a while. It was another 5 years before I actually went to university. And in that time, this dream was percolating. So there's a process of percolation. And percolation is describing that filtering effect that goes on for coffee, if you like, coffee percolator. That filtering effect that goes on where the water is slowly dripping through the coffee and then changing the substance comes out the other end. And we have nice brewed coffee. And that's a little bit like a dream. Sometimes a dream takes a long time to actually percolate into reality. And as I said, percolation is a really important thing to realize, that you don't have to make that change overnight. You don't even have to go down the steps of making that change. Sometimes the stuff of life just gets in the way and it slows us down. You know, we still have our work commitments. We still have our commitments to our family and our significant others, or our wives and our partners and husbands. Right? So we've got all those commitments that carry on, but it doesn't mean that you have to give up that dream totally. Just let it percolate. Just let it percolate. And then opportunity often finds a way of coming about. And that comes to my second point. First of all, percolation, but then the second point is preparation. Preparation. At some point, you've got to let that percolation move towards active preparation. And one of my favorite sayings is attributed to Abraham Lincoln. Now, later as an academic, as a student, as a researcher, I have to go back and check, my sources. And I actually contacted a academic and historian who was Abraham Lincoln, who was a Lincoln historian, and asked him about this phrase. And he said there's no record of him ever saying this, but it doesn't matter. The insight and the wisdom of this phrase and this proverb, if you like, is still the same. And this is a phrase that drove me for many, many years and continues to drive me. And here it is. I will study, I will prepare, and my opportunity will come. I will study, I'll prepare, and my opportunity will come. And so you let that percolation happen, but at some stage, you've got to turn it into preparation. If you're serious about this dream, turning into reality, you've got to take active steps. It's almost like your mind is testing you, to say, are you really serious about this? Once it sees that you're serious and then your will seriously gets engaged, you make some active steps about realizing that goal. And sometimes it's a disaster that allows that next stage of preparation to really take place. And so you've got to make yourself prepare. I'll study, I'll prepare, and my opportunity will come. And so in closing, I just say, do you have a movie or do you have a book that stimulated change in your life? If so, put it down in the comments below. I'd love to hear. I'm sure other folk ever coming along and stumbling across this channel will enjoy seeing as well. And the second thing is, if you like this video, please just subscribe to the channel or push a like and give me some ideas of other things that you'd like me to discuss. As I say, this is Communicare Communities. It's about communication and all the different ways and fields of communication. And there's so many in academia. There's so many in so many professions: environmental communication, policy communication. There's emergency and disaster communication, public relations, critical studies. There's so many different realms of communication, and we want to sort of tap into some of that here. And the great thing about this channel is I don't have to be the academic where I have to dot every I and cross every T, knowing that it's going to be challenge. There's going to be a bit of popular psychology mixed into this. There's going to be some theorists along the way that I've found useful. As I said, in my earlier video, we'll unpack this idea of the circuit of culture sometime. And there's some others that I'd like to look at. Another really interesting one is the Mean World Index, and that taps into this issue of stereotypes and how the media can really reinforce stereotypes. And that's going to be the next video I'm going to sort of talk about. Sort of 5 sort of common sense rules, if you like, about stereotypes. And one of them I'll share now. Stereotypes are always harmful. Even the good ones, they're always harmful. But that's next time. Anyway, if you like it, please like and subscribe. Bye.